Thank you. Could we hear from Joey Lynn back from the Attorney General's office?
Thank you.
Chairman, thank you. On behalf of Attorney General Kilmartin, I am here opposing House Bill 5555, and I'm here supporting House Bill 5551 and opposing 5865. The Attorney General has submitted to this committee very lengthy and detailed written testimony, but I'm going to make several brief comments to walk you through that because I know you've heard from us before. I think one of the points that you heard from Chief Palmer, and we've talked a lot, probably more than we were expecting to tonight, was medical marijuana. And I would really implore on this commission, or this committee, we cannot make this decision in a vacuum. We cannot talk about the legalization of retail marijuana and the existence of medical marijuana in our community separately. They're one conversation, and it's one of the big mistakes that Colorado has made because much of their gray and black market has come from the medical program. So I think that's the main point I would like to get across to the committee tonight. Like I said, the Attorney General is opposed to retail marijuana. We believe that this is creating an entire new industry for a limited amount of people to make money at the burden to the future of Rhode Island, its children, and its economy. And we would ask, why are we doing this? Why are we in this committee talking about this tonight? Is it to give marijuana for medicinal use? No, you've done that for 11 years. As you heard Joanne said, it's a very successful program. It is. Are we doing it to allow for small possession amounts? You decriminalized marijuana in 2013. It's a $150 fine for youth use. And are you doing it for social justice, which we've heard a lot tonight? As of March 31st of this year, there are 4 people at the ACI on marijuana-only related charges. 4. 2 serving a sentence, 2 pending trial. I know that Mr. Vincent spoke about the over 14,000 arrests that were made out of decriminalization, and I really think we need to wrap our heads around this a little bit. This is not a full-out legalization of marijuana. It's the allowance of specific possession limits of marijuana. Delivery of marijuana will still be a crime. A possession of certain amounts of marijuana will still be a crime. And I would be interested to know, of those 14,000 arrests, what were the possession limits involved there? Because this isn't a cure to marijuana arrest or the drug war. It's creating a different standard of that drug war. And I would note that we have reports out of Colorado that youth of color are being arrested at a higher rate than their peers. We've also seen from the Drug Policy Alliance that adults of color are still being arrested at higher rates of marijuana. And even more troubling is the marijuana retail stores in Denver are being concentrated of neighborhoods of color. That all being said, why wouldn't we legalize? I don't think we should legalize. The AG doesn't think we should legalize because of the youth rates increasing. Rhode Island is already 5th in the country, 12 to 17, 4th in the country, 18 to 25. And despite what we've heard from proponents, youth rates are rising in Colorado, according to the Healthy Kids Colorado study. The effects of new marijuana that our youth and our adults are using, the marijuana concentrates in the edibles. They're used in vape pens. The marijuana concentrates in edibles are 85 to 95% THC. It has a very different effect on its user. Health effects, which aren't known yet, effects on driving aren't known yet. I would like to speak about the black market still existing. We know we have a gray market in Rhode Island through our home growth. We know a great deal of Colorado's market comes through the home growth. I would state that the proponents say that because Colorado has $1 billion of retail sales, that means the black market is eliminating. 44% of Denver sales are from out-of-state visitors. 90% of mountain area sales are from out-of-state visitors. Where are people in Colorado buying their marijuana? They're not buying it from the stores. They're buying it from the gray market because it's cheaper. And I would say that the bill that's in front of you, I think, enables drug dealing because it actually decreases the jail sentences for those who deliver marijuana and those who have large quantities of marijuana. We know that DUIDs have increased in Colorado and Washington, but this bill would shield those over the age of 21 from DUI liability from having active metabolite in their system only. So we're enabling DUID. We know that litigation costs have went up to both state, county, and local governments in Colorado. We know this has had a huge impact on employers in Colorado, getting people that can pass a pre-employment drug screen. I know that we've talked a lot in the last couple of years about getting Rhode Islanders back to work. This won't help that, especially when we have a thriving defense economy in Rhode Island. I will note that we are very concerned about local impact under this bill. I think you heard from the chief and others that a lot of the issues that have come out of the marijuana medical program regarding home grow has been left in the laps of our cities and towns. And they have had to come up with ordinances. They're just starting to come up with ordinances to deal with this. There's no building inspections. There's no code inspections for grows. Yet this bill would allow everyone over the age of 21 to have their own home grow. Whether it's one plant or three, there's still a home grow. And this bill says you can regulate time, place, and manner, but you can, as a city and town, make the zoning decision that you've had the authority to for decades to ban these from your community. And if you want to, you have to take each one to a referendum and pay for that referendum, have big marijuana come into your community and see if it passes, or then you're restricted. Not only is that offensive to the cities and towns, it's offensive to zoning ordinances that are already in place that they've done. With that, I would state to you that the future of our workforce, our children, and our economy is not worth the small financial profit the state might see of this. We think that the study commission would be very helpful because we've never seen a fiscal note on this bill. And I would say to you, if the community and this assembly is going to consider legalizing marijuana, please, please, please address the medical marijuana program so we can put our neighborhoods' safety first and have that conversation both with medical and with legalization. I do have, for the clerk, and I'll give it to Roberta, resolutions from 7 cities and towns opposing this bill.
Thank you, Joey. Certainly, thank you for keeping that concise. I know the Attorney General has very strong feelings about this. We have extensive written testimony. So no easy task for you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Representative Filippi.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I understand where you or the Attorney General stands on the general legalization. I'm more concerned about the broad expungement provisions of this bill. It seems to me there's expungement of everything that's already been decriminalized, but then also goes one step further and allows expungement of any past crimes that would no longer be crimes under this act. We've spoken a lot about expungement this year, but what is your office's position on expunging everything in the past that is now decriminalized? Because it seems like that's more relevant to me. And then what is their position on the expungement of everything that is still a crime in the state but would not be a crime under this bill?
I think, one, it's unfortunate that that provision and that bill is put into this bill because I think they're totally different conversations. I will tell you.
But we're talking about it. So.
Well, you are talking about it. So we have taken the position that we do support expunging laws that have been decriminalized by this assembly. We want to work with the Public Defender's Office and Representative Slater, who's the sponsor, of defining what that means, because there are some crimes where parts of it have been found unconstitutional. That's not really decriminalizing. Or there are certain sections of law that has been repealed and replaced and are no longer on the books. That is different. But if it's a straight-up decriminalization, OSL, possession of marijuana that this body has made, we want to work on that issue, and we are working with the public defender to clear up that language. And
you'd be supportive no matter how many, let's say, misdemeanor possessions someone has, that all of them could be expunged out?
I think, I don't want to speak for the general on this, but as we have looked at it, if it is decriminalized, yes, expungements have certain limits on crimes of violence and things of that nature.
Certainly.
I think we'll have to work through issues like that.
I'm happy to hear that. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative O'Grady.
Thank you, Joey, for your testimony. Now, you started your testimony by posing a series of hypothetical questions, all beginning with, why are we doing this? Is it to decriminalize small amounts of marijuana in personal possession? No, we've already done that. Is it for X reason, Y reason? But one hypothetical you didn't pose is might we not be doing this to give consenting adults in the privacy of their own home the right to choose the method of intoxication that works best for them? Like, that seems a legitimate question and might be a motivation for doing this at least as equal to the motivation of increased revenues for the state, social justice, or any of the others that you posed. And we had a trial run at this just a few months ago in Massachusetts, which we consistently compare ourselves to, and demographics are similar, although Massachusetts has higher levels of educational attainment, for example. They have some higher income, but generally the demographics are the same between the state. And if you look at the results of ballot question number 4 in November, there are 351 cities and towns in the state of Massachusetts. 260 of them voted to support ballot question number 4, which is the legalization of recreational marijuana. That's 74%. And if you dig down a little deeper, although Massachusetts was certainly a Hillary Clinton state, there were 94 towns in Massachusetts that were carried by Donald Trump. 74 of those voted in support of ballot question number 4 as well. That's 79% of Trump-supporting towns also supported ballot question number 4. Compared to...
Representative O'Grady,
yes.
Do you have Douglas, Mass. there?
I do have Douglas, Mass., yes.
What's that?
And I will, well, Mr. Chairman, I represent Blackstone Valley, as you do as well. Blackstone Valley is an area that in Rhode Island voted for Donald Trump, and that trend continued up into Massachusetts. So in the case of Douglas, what we found was that Douglas voted 56.9% in favor of ballot question number 4. Bellingham 56.6%, Blackstone 58.2%, Mendon 52.2%, Millbury 53.1%, Millville 59.7%, Northbridge, my hometown, 50.4%, Uxbridge 54.4%, and finally Webster.
That's only because you were voting in Lincoln that year, right?
55.2%. That's correct. The only town in Blackstone Valley that did not vote, that voted for Donald Trump, they all voted for Donald Trump, but that did not vote in support of the ballot question number 4 was Sutton, and even in Sutton, ballot question 4 received 49.3% support. I have this to share. So my question is to circle back. Let me pose that question to you. Why can't we be doing this as a matter of offering consenting adults in the privacy of their own home the ability to legally choose the method of intoxication that works best for them?
I'm trying not to sound flip when I say this.
Please.
So I'm trying to say this the best way I can, and excuse me if I do in advance. I think when you have a ballot question or polling numbers, you ask...
This is not polling. This is results.
Ballot question, right, the ballot question. Do you approve of the recreational use of marijuana? Right? That's basically the ballot question. It's no shock to me that a majority of people in Massachusetts, Maine, Colorado, Oregon, Washington, D.C., and state of Washington said yes. That's not shocking.
Nevada, California, Alaska.
California, Alaska. Because I don't believe the average person cares if their neighbor is smoking, vaping, or ingesting marijuana, which is why the state decriminalized it. I think the question is the industry surrounding it, the black market concerns. From a pure policy perspective, do you care if your neighbor smokes marijuana? I don't think anyone does. And I think that's how referendum votes happen. Unfortunately, this is a committee that has to talk about the serious policy considerations of setting up a regulated market that does not increase highway safety concerns, that does not increase youth access, and does not create a black market. I think those are two different issues. So that's my response. And I do know that of the cities and towns that did vote overhandedly to support the legalization of marijuana in Massachusetts, that many of those cities and towns, their local governments, are now starting referendums to ban the retail stores. Why? Because people don't care if their neighbors smoke marijuana, but they don't want the store on their main street.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Joey? Representative Almeida.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Joe. Just a little clarification. The president of the NAACP, Jim Vincent, when he was talking, he really meant the war on drugs. What it affected was the war on black people. And the prosecution rate for the same offense was different than it would be in a white community. Now, I'm putting extra words into Jim's mouth. He'll talk to me later, trust me when I tell you. But the fact is that that is where the NAACP, and I thank you, Jim, for allowing me to speak for the NAACP, that's the rule that we're talking about. The other part about marijuana or centers, whatever the heck they call themselves in Colorado, it is sort of like in the black media, we already brought that up. Main media don't talk about it at all. But in the black media, when we were talking about malt liquor, it took the black media and the black community to get it out, especially the advertisements. So the Attorney General, not just this Attorney General, all Attorney Generals, and particularly white Attorney Generals, need to understand that when they put these, I don't have to call them, Joe, these compassion centers, in, let's say, in the outside or in the black community, most of those communities are poor, and they're just looking for a work. They're looking for a job of any kind. Does that make it right? Nope. Does that make it a part of survival to pay your rent, your mortgage, and feed your kids? Yeah. But again, the black media has gone after that and has brought that up. But you're sure not going to hear about it in the pro, Joe, that's for sure. The only way you're going to hear about it is when the president, Jim Vincent, brings it up and talks about it. So there are two worlds when it comes to marijuana. But I'm still stuck, and I understand where you're coming from, as a prosecutor. But police officers are not prosecutors. They're also defenders of the law. And there's a big difference if some cops could just understand that. But they need a weapon to protect them, to be trained, so they don't get caught. And I'm going to keep saying it, caught in that legal black hole. I don't want the police chiefs to come back here again and saying, put words in their mouth, Joe, we're still back in the same boat. That needs to be looked at some point, even though the young doctor did talk about it. Do I think that's something that the Attorney General has to lean on? I don't know. But I know that police officers need a weapon. And I know that the black community, through the NAACP chapters, have talked about marijuana and why you're putting it in our backyard when, in fact, we talk about that up here all the time for all kind of issues. Why you got to be in my backyard? So I'm just letting you know that.
I just wanted to say two things to that. And I completely understand what you're saying. My point to what I was saying is that I didn't want it to come off as legalizing marijuana would be the cure-all to the issues that Mr. Vincent was speaking about, because I just don't want that to be a falsehood out there that the entire community's issues will go away with the legalization of marijuana and people that are being targeted for certain offenses. And I completely agree with you with law enforcement. We have a serious issue with drug driving detection. Colorado State Police right now are testing different breathalyzers for marijuana, but that's still in its production stage. And with the access to information, we've been working with Mr. Birnbaum at DBR, but that issue of both the town's governments knowing where the cultivations are and law enforcement knowing where the cultivations are has been an issue since the start of this program. And it must be addressed for our towns to protect themselves and law enforcement not to put a patient or caregiver in harm's way.
Just on that testing, I'm just going to go back a second, okay? I understand it's the breathalyzer. Is it also some sort of a better word, a swab on the hand to detect? Is that one of the tests too?
Not that I know of. I mean, right now, and the way we've been doing it for years is, reasonable suspicion that the person was operating to a manner to make them under the influence on our highways, as conducted by a drug recognition officer. I think we're at 74 in those states, but as the chief said, that takes hours. I think they're breathalyzers right now. I don't know about the swabs, but as I said, that was last year when I was out in Colorado. I think they were testing 5 different breathalyzer devices.
In whatever the test may be, breathalyzer or swab of the skin or DNA, I don't know. Would it still? Do you think? I don't want to put you out there, but do you think it would come under the same rules as somebody who's caught drunk driving? Would they follow that kind of rules with the marijuana test?
We would have. I mean, we would have to. Our standard bearer was the person operating in a way that they were putting highway safety at risk due to their intoxication. Right now, that's done by DRE on drugs, blood alcohol with alcohol. That would still fit into our investigatory tool, but the legal standard wouldn't change. So, yes, it would be evidence to build that reasonable suspicion.
Thank you.
Probable cause.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Joey? Representative McEntee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Joey, I'm looking through the Attorney General's report, and I'm seeing all the issues that you've addressed and that he addressed: youth impact, increased potency of marijuana. You went over most of this. Cultivations, illicit market, fiscal impact, driving while drugged, prevention and treatment, local control, employers' impact. You talked about all of those things. I do agree with you that the local police departments need to know where the who's growing in the community, and I don't know how to go about that to preserve everybody's privacy, but that's something that we need to do locally. I've heard that from both of my police departments in Narragansett and South Kingstown. But with that said, and all of the issues, we're surrounded by Massachusetts on 2 sides of Rhode Island, and Connecticut is considering, is what I understand, they're considering passing legalization. So if we don't legalize, aren't we still going, my belief is we're still going to have the same problems, but we won't have the revenue to deal with the problems, like increased law enforcement, increase revenue to hire more police officers or whatever, drug counseling, intervention, youth education, all of those things that are going to have to happen anyway because there's going to be more access to marijuana because of the legalization around us. And because we're such a small state, obviously, if you want it, you're going to go there. So what I'm asking you is, aren't we going to have those problems anyway? And what do we do about them if we don't legalize?
Those problems are here right now. Those problems are all here right now. The black market is here right now. The gray market is here right now. Drug driving is here right now. Youth access is here right now. And we're not dealing with them. Prevention and treatment are here right now. I think this is one of the reasons the commission is so important. But I would really want to put it in front of the committee to think about this. How much do you think use is going to go up because Massachusetts legalizes? Or do you think that marijuana is going to continue to be used by those who are using it regardless because they know exactly where to get it due to our black and gray market? And it will be cheaper in Rhode Island with their black and gray market because they don't have the taxes and overhead that they will at the stores in Massachusetts. Just the reason Rhode Island has led the country in illicit cigarette smuggling because it's cheaper elsewhere because of tax and revenue. So I don't know. I think that's something to look at. To me, the people that we need to be worried about in the Massachusetts market are the new users. And I don't have a quantified data on that because I think that the marijuana users here, if you ask anyone in South Kingstown and Narragansett High School, they know exactly where to buy marijuana and it's off a caregiver. So I don't know how much of an impact we'll have. I hope we deal with the issue we have now, and I hope we deal with the issue we have then. I
think we have to clean up some of the problems with medical marijuana, but I'm just saying that, there are a lot of law-abiding people out there who might buy marijuana if it was legal in another state that wouldn't go to, I don't know, wherever to buy marijuana here. But I don't think that there's that many. I do think that there's people that would buy it if it was legal that don't necessarily buy it now. I can't agree with you that it wouldn't change that. Because people like to abide by the law. I think that there's a lot of business people out there, a lot of lawyers, doctors, any kind of business, all kinds of workers that don't do things because it's illegal that they might do otherwise if it was legal. But that's what I think, Anyway, it's a tough question for all of us to weigh in on, and that's one of the things. I don't think we're going to escape it. Not that we are already, but I think it could have more of an impact. So, thank you.
Any further questions for Joey? Thank you, Ms. Lindbeck.